22nd.
If that works, Mr. Bill.
That'll do it. Get a lot of people will forget to leave the zip or the date, and they're sticklers if it isn't filled out.
Okay.
Give me some more and I get them done for you.
Do what?
Give me some more and I get them done for you before
Oh.
you leave. Not tonight, but I get you some done.
Yeah, I've got plenty in the car too if you want more. Thank you. Oops. Print your name up there on the top. I didn't highlight that one, did I? Thanks, Charlotte.
How's everything going?
Busy. You knew Mike Flint, didn't you? I went to DC for that service for him in Arlington yesterday. That was an amazing experience. Thank you. They weren't supposed to have it, Joe, because of the weather, and they were just going to have a prayer. And I guess Senator Rubio and Matt Gaetz both got involved, and it happened. Yeah, we froze our butts off, but it happened. It was cold, snowing. I'll send you a picture of it. I mean, they had the Horse-Drawn case on and the 21-gun salute. It was a full honors, and he deserved it. Well, the guy was a 27-year. He was a colonel in the Air Force, flew fixed wings and helicopters, had all kinds of medals. Joe, I've dealt with him on a lot of things with the ISP group. I never knew he was a member of Mensa. He was city manager for Valpy for a number of years. He's just an amazing guy. Yeah.
Karen, you ready? Phil, you want to do the invocation? Where's Mr. Dixon?
Jeff.
Are we going to do this without him? They will be missed. At this time, we will call the March 22nd, 2018 Walton County Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. If you would, please stand as we have our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Anderson.
May we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all you provide. We thank you for the opportunity to live in this great country where we enjoy our freedoms, our liberties. We thank you for our county and the beauty that we get to enjoy. Be with the board members tonight. Grant us wisdom as we make our decisions. And be with our leaders, the national and state and local leaders as they make decisions. For this we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We do appreciate the board members being here tonight. We do have two that is not with us. We always thank and appreciate Ms. Karen for all the hard work that she does in making this meeting possible and putting up with all the board members and trying to figure out if they're coming or not coming. We do thank Mr. Dykes for our legal opinion being with us tonight. And Mr. Carpenter and Vivian and the legal staff, I do not have the name. I cannot remember the name of the attorney. Mike, help me out.
Miss Heather Chrisman.
Miss Heather
Christmas.
Chrisman. Okay, very good. Nice for you to be here tonight. We appreciate it. Mr. Dykes, do we have any announcements need to be made at this time?
No, sir. No, nothing new on the legal front. No new appeals. All the other appeals they're still pending. No, nothing new to report.
No decisions?
No, sir. Not yet.
Well, as long as there's no decision, we won, right?
So far, so good.
So far, good deal. We ask each and every person here tonight that if you anticipate in speaking before this board, if you would stand, raise your right hand and be swear that the statements you make be true. If you're going to speak before this board, please stand. If you think you're going to speak before this board, please stand.
All right. Do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
I think we have 4 items on the agenda. I believe we have, what, 2 is going to ask for continuance? Which 2 is going to ask for the continuance?
Yes, sir. We've got a written request to continue item number 4 to May 24th at 6 p.m. in this location.
Motion to continue,
Motion to continue.
second.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Is that the only one? or
And we may have a verbal request to continue number 2. The applicant's representatives are here to make that request.
Who's here to represent item number 2?
Yeah, we represent item number 2, and we're asking for a continuance. There is an issue with the notice that was given on this, and in order for y'all to make an appropriate decision, it needs to be renoticed so that the entire variance that we're asking for is in the notice.
Motion to continue, second.
Second.
What day you want it continued?
Next month.
April, what's our date? April 22? April 26th.
Item number 2, continue to April 26th. Second, motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
So where are we starting tonight? Item number 1, Rutroff variance. Who's here to represent the item number 1? Pardon me?
For anybody who's here for the Richter variance or for the 187 San Roy Beach Holdings variance, those have been continued. A new notice, I don't believe will go out, right? So you won't receive a new notice, but do know that the Richter variance will be heard on April 26th, and the San Roy variance will be heard on May 24th, same time, same location.
Appreciate it, Mr. Dykes. Thank you. You ready to do item number 1? Well, that cleared out half the room.
Good evening. Melissa Ward with Dunlap and Shipman, representing the Routreau family. This is a request for a front setback variance from 20 feet to 0 feet. What I'm going to hand out real quick, in addition to your staff report and exhibits or application, is a copy of the Dune Allen plat, just so you have a reference point as we go through the presentation, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Did you? Okay. So the Routreaus own the piece of property on 30A, and this is lot number 3, block 1 of the Dune Allen subdivision. Dune Allen subdivision was platted in 1949, and it included Sugar Beach Drive, which is a 50-foot right-of-way. Sugar Beach Drive was not built. Instead, 30A came into being and proceeded, and at such time as it began to be improved, it took on a different life than what was platted in Dune Allen. So 30A crosses at an angle, and Sugar Beach Drive is the underlying right-of-way that is still there. So I'd like to briefly go over the survey to kind of explain what our diagram is. And I'm going to have to walk away from the microphone.
Ms. Melissa, you understand it takes 4 out of 5 to approve this tonight,
Yes, sir.
and you want to go ahead with that?
I believe so.
Okay.
So, this is a survey of the Routreau property, and there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out. 30A comes through here at this angle. This piece that's highlighted in yellow is the Sugar Beach Drive portion that separates the Routreau property from 30A. about 25 feet deep. And the rest of Sugar Beach Drive is partially under, actually it's a little more than that on this corner, it's under 38. Okay? The property line starts here. We've estimated about 20-foot front setback being here. The coastal construction control line goes through Sugar Beach Drive, north of the property line for the Routros. Their house is in existence and it is built here, and it crosses partially below the coastal protection zone. So the area that we are talking about is that it would be the variance where this blue line is, which is the 20-foot approximate 20-foot front setback. They would build, if they would have a setback, a 0 front setback, which put it at the Sugar Beach Drive, which is 25 feet at the smallest point from 38. Okay, there's 25 feet at the smallest point between the property line and 38. And at the longest point, I believe it's about 32 feet.
So what you're dealing with is the easement with 38, which is how many feet? Is that a 60-foot easement with 38?
38 is, I believe, is it a 60-foot easement?
It may be, it's between 70 and 100 feet there.
It's quite big, 38 is. But between 38 and our property is 25 feet of Sugar Beach Drive on one end and about 32 feet on the other end, on the western side.
Sugar Beach Drive is not in, is that correct?
It is not built, no.
So what you're dealing with, your property goes to 38?
The property does not.
It does not go to 38.
No, sir. And let me tell you, precede this with just this information. We originally were going to apply for an abandonment. That's what the Routros asked us to do. We've met
Right.
several occasions with the county about getting that abandoned.
Right.
2 lots away from us towards the west, they had it abandoned. 1 further, 3 other over there, they didn't abandon it, but they took over ownership. I'm not sure how that happened. But basically the county said to us, we're not going to abandon it. We're not really, the county's not in favor of giving up public right-of-way. That's understandable. In addition to that, if we had asked for an abandonment, the 38 buffer, landscape buffer, is 25 feet, so we wouldn't have necessarily accomplished anything other than if the property was abandoned and there's a 25-foot buffer, our buildable area is reduced, is increased by 20 feet because the setback would be within that buffer. So the suggestion was ask for a variance, don't try to take the road.
But you have 38 that has a 60, let's say 60, 100-foot right-of-way.
100 foot.
It's
Just hang on.
100 feet. It's 100 feet.
And after you have that, you have how wide is that Sugar Beach Drive?
It's 50 feet, but the portion between our property and the edge of the right-of-way for 38 is 25 feet on one end and 32 feet on the other.
But that right-of-way joins 38 right-of-way.
Ye-
Sugar Beach Drive right-of-way joins,
It lays under.
right.
Yeah,
2 lots down on this survey, it shows Sugar Beach Drive 50-foot right-of-way closed. That's what you're speaking of, as
Correct.
being closed. So the lot next to you is still in existence, is that correct?
yes,
Okay. And you asked them for a 20-foot, which would include that right-of-way, Sugar Beach Drive.
no, sir. The 20 feet sets back from the right-of-way into our property. We're asking for this to be 0, and that would leave the 25 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
I got a quick question. Melissa, what's the distance between the existing home and the one you're going to build?
Okay, the Routros do not today have a building plan. What they have, what they have is a house that was built in 1985 and the continuation of storms. It is Florida after all. And they are concerned that if something, and they know for a fact, they've talked to the county, if something happens to that house, it cannot be built in its present configuration. If it's partially damaged because it's below the CPZ, they will have to do repair and move it forward. Now, And that's understandable. We're trying to get things away from the beach and further inward, further landward. The Routreau, Mrs. Routreau, is, I want to say 85. I could be wrong. And her daughter, Elizabeth Cooey, and there are 2 other children that come to this house. They don't want to sell it, and to my knowledge, they do not rent it out to anybody. This is their home, and they come here frequently. They are considering, at a later date, putting a mother-in-law cottage on the front after they have considered how to repair the home and put it further landward so that it's out of the CPZ. But they don't have any set plans today, or we would have provided a layout.
That prompts another question. If you don't even have a plan or design, how do you know what kind of variance you need?
Well, let's go back to that. We weren't initially asking for a variance. We were asking, we were going to submit for an abandonment so that any setback that we had would have been within the 25-foot buffer that is Sugar Beach Drive. The area that, if the abandonment had occurred, our property line would be flush with the right-of-way of 30A. We would have a 25-foot buffer and a 20-foot front setback that lies within the buffer. So we would have a maximum of a 25-foot setback from the edge of the 30A right-of-way. Therefore, the 0-foot front setback is the same effect.
So an abandonment is guaranteed?
No, sir, certainly not.
Without having a building plan, you're asking for a variance so you can design the building?
Yes, sir. They have a concern about being able to move that house further landward, and they don't have a buildable plan yet for it. And let me reiterate that what we're looking here for is a better way to utilize the site, while in fact we are trying to move it environmentally away from the beach and further landward. So this.
No offense, but
Sure.
I don't know how you can make that statement if you haven't even got a design. That's what's puzzling me.
Because the environmental concern is further south. The coastal dune lake over to the east, as you know, Oyster Lake comes out underneath the road and comes out to the beach, and whenever it pops off to the beach. At one point, in the last couple of years, when it came out and swept further west and separated beach from the houses so that there was an actual area that was all water under there. It's not that they currently have an impending situation or that they have a plan to build another house. It is that, in particular, this house built in 1985 is below this coastal protection zone. This is a plan, as they progress slow and sure, to move things further landward out of the environmentally sensitive area.
This gets a little more complicated, it seems like. They don't want to build a house, they don't have a plan, but they ask them for a variance.
They anticipate that there will be a need to repair that house, and the repairs will have to be north of and landward of that coastal protection zone. Everything on that property is below the CCCL. Everything that's going to be permitted on that property will have to go through the DEP and the county looking at environmental concerns. The site itself is in a sensitive area, and therefore being able to move it further landward keeps it away from significant damage from the beach, from the storms and so on.
How far do they have to be off the CPZ line?
How far do they have to be off of it?
Yeah.
I don't think I can frankly answer that question. They have to be north of it.
How far north?
If I could address that, they can build up to the CPZ. Now, I think what Melissa stated earlier was everything was south of the CPZ. Everything is south of the coastal construction control line.
Oh, true.
The only
Sorry.
thing that appears to be south of the current coastal protection zone is the covered porch and a portion of an elevated wood deck and the corner of the two-story house.
Yes, there is a corner of the house here and the porch and part of it, and of course the deck. Part of the deck and the boardwalk is south of the CPZ. This is the CCCL line.
Any other questions? Anything else to add?
what Colleen asked me and made perfect sense would be, would it be easier to review the situation? Would it be more preferable if we come back with a site plan, any that they would propose, so that you can understand what they're looking at? In other words, if the question is, if the idea here is that since you don't have a site plan to look at for approval of a reduced setback, would it be better for us to come back in a month with a proposed site plan and have them get somebody to draw up a layout, which they haven't done thus far?
I think this is a very unique situation, in my opinion. I think that the board always would like to have a site plan so we know what we're dealing with. It's kind of like you asking us to grant you a open, well, not open, but a variance on the property without any idea when ever they may want to use it. However, I can also understand their position with Sugar Beach Drive that is only affecting 2 lots. Now, it would make common sense to me for the county to abandon it, because really, where will it go? But I can also appreciate all the easements in South Walton, and they're trying to protect it with the one that they are litigating. They continue to litigate that shouldn't have never been litigated. De Francesca's, and that's, you know, is just a sore subject to me, so I can understand them trying to protect the easement. But I can also understand that this is unique with the landowner, that it's an easement, but really it's not a road, and it won't never be a road. So I can understand and sympathize, you know, granting the variance from that standpoint. But it's up to the, you know, this board if they think it's best for you to come back with a site plan.
I would prefer that, but I wouldn't mind hearing staff either. But if they're willing to come back, I would be in favor of that.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, I don't want to get in someone else's job jar or in someone else's lane, but I just have a concern of whether it's the best action for the landowner in this situation, instead of abandonment, to go the variance route. I mean, I'm concerned that if we move the red line up landward, what if the county decides to use that right away for parking, let's say, and now the landowner has public parking right up? Am I missing something here?
You can't use an easement for parking. If they allow it to use for parking, then it will block the access. It's ingress egress.
Would block whose access? The driveway?
The driveway.
The owner?
Yeah.
No, I think the drive, it shows right here, driveway's off to the, was that the west side?
I don't.
I just don't want the county to come back later and do something right up to the property owner's, you know, property line. If we give them a variance, so they can do whatever, come as close as they want to, and to wake up one day and they find that the county's done something right next to their property line. It seemed to me that you'd want to get the abandonment. But then again, that's just my concern, but I know y'all thought about that, so I'm not getting in your lane and I'm not getting in your job jar. So
Well, Commissioner Anderson, that's a very valid point. This process that we've been going through with the Routros has been not a couple of months, it's been years. One of the aspects of the abandonment, for instance, is the surveyor had a difficulty, and Daryl could speak to this, identifying specifically the area to be abandoned, because the angle of 30A versus the angle of the lot creates a question of where the actual line is. And it's a hair fraction, but it took a while to solve that problem. Add to that the county is not and does not want to give up any public right-of-way, and when we pursue it, we take the risk that they're going to deny it. Which I want to say clearly on the record here that I appreciate staff addressing the concern with us and giving us options, because that's a valuable tool. And what happened here is, even if we get the abandonment, which the county does not support, so it would, there's that, we would still have the 25-foot buffer. And what we have right now, and just for the clarity, just so we're very, very clear, what we have now is a 45-foot setback from 30A, from the edge of the right-of-way, not the road itself, versus a 25-foot, quote, setback or buffer or right-of-way that's there. We are aware that should the county decide to do something with that, it impacts the property, which is why I believe Colleen suggested maybe we get them to do a site plan and bring it back to you to determine if that makes more sense. It does not, however, change the fact that the issue is to push it further landward and to get it further away from the beach. So, and I leave it to your discretion. If you feel like you would rather have the site plan, we can discuss that with the client.
Mr. Charlie, what do you think? You want a site plan?
I think
We gotta
a
have,
site plan wouldn't hurt. I mean, like it would help. It seemed like it would help Bill. I mean, we're down to, there's a 5-member board instead of a 7-member board. So, I would be in favor of a continuance if they wanted one. If they wanted to try to go that route instead. But
Okay.
if they would like to continue, I would continue whichever way they would prefer.
Mr. Burgess?
I think at a minimum, we should have a site plan to consider. By the letter of the law, their ownership stops at the north boundary of the lot. If they don't have a true abandonment such that they acquire title to it, then you're giving a 0-foot setback to their ownership, and between even a 20-foot setback to the CPZ in comparison to the aerial photograph for the neighboring properties, it would be out of harmony. It wouldn't necessarily be any different from what the neighbors might be able to build up to, but as I say, site plan at a minimum, and the difficulty in my mind is the fact that they don't own the property in question, the 25-foot.
I think that, I think you need a site plan.
Okay.
I think we need to continue till you get a site plan.
Okay. And we appreciate that. We'll discuss it with the client. They're trying to be proactive and to be in front of the issues that they feel are coming, so.
Well, we won't give every opportunity to be fair with it.
Sure.
We would like to, if you don't mind.
When would you guys like to continue?
Hang on, Mr.
Oh,
Dykes,
sorry.
I'm not through. Do you mind if we take and just ask Mr. Carpenter his position on the abandonment?
Feel free. I'll step aside.
Just educate us a little bit, because there's not much right of way there.
That's right, and this is a constrained roadway. We're trying to protect every part of public property, and this is public property, the remnant of that street. It's not an easement. The county owns it.
Well, now, wait a minute now. Sugar Beach Drive is not an ingress egress?
It's a road that was on the previous plat before 30A came through, dedicated to the public.
But it's a county easement.
It's not an easement. The county owns the fee. They own the dirt.
Do what now?
The county owns the dirt. It's not an easement that somebody else owns the dirt underneath the easement. In this case, the county owns that parcel. Between
Part of
them,
that, part of the government lots that was.
no, this isn't the government patent easement. This was a platted road right away. Prior to 30A coming in and moving, or creating a new 30A road right away. But the county owns both 30A and this remnant of this street in the
Okay.
plat.
Very good, thank you. I think Mr. Dykes would like to know when you wanted to continue this to, April or May? May will probably give you more time. May? Motion continue May the 24th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
26 or 24? It's May.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next item, Ditahart variance. Who's here to represent the third variance? Come up to the podium.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Brian Dithart. I am the property owner, proud property owner of 170 Sunrise Circle. I got to remember that. Here in Santa Rosa Beach. We're 1.5 years new to the community and very excited to be here.
Welcome.
It takes 4 out of 5 to make the decision for you tonight. Are you comfortable with us 5 making that decision? You have the right to continue until we get a full board. We never know when that's going to be.
And
You
and what
good?
that means,
Yep.
sir, is that you would have to have 4 affirmative votes to get your variance. It would not be a, majority, simple majority of those that are here. So you would have to carry 4 of the 5.
I see 6 is one.
You don't
Oh,
count.
I'm not a board member.
Oh,
I'm the attorney.
Okay.
So,
I'm comfortable.
just so we're clear, that means if, you got 3 out of 2, or 3 out of 5, then your variance request would be denied pursuant to our land development code. So what Mr. Johnson, the chairman, often does is advises applicants, if you wish to request a continuance, you can do so in hopes that the other board members would be here. We just have 2 absent tonight.
If
So
you have the other board members, it's the
then
majority.
It's still 4, but it's 4 out of 7, so it's a majority.
If there's 4, there's 4 out of 4. If there's 7, it's 4 out of 7.
I'm comfortable.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I'm comfortable. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm here with my wife and my daughter. We bought a home year ago, March. And we'd like to add an accessory dwelling unit. My father's down in South Florida. He's 88. He's a widower. He has some health issues. He does exist. Vivian Chanel met him at the pre-hearing, and he wanted to be here tonight, but he had some medical appointments down in South Florida. In any event, he's all alone, and we would like to add an accessory dwelling unit for his accommodations. He would move in with us. He wants his independence. I'm more than willing to give him his independence and a little privacy. If you have elderly parents, you'd know that. I'm requesting a hardship relief from the numeric percentage restrictions so that I can build a modest 576 square foot home to the east of my existing residence. I'm not familiar with the protocol before this board, but I'm assuming you have site plans and everything in front of you that you can review. And we've tried to lay everything out for you. As I said, my father's 88, and I have a mother-in-law single, that's right behind my father. So if the natural progression of things happens, God forbid, but my father passes away, my mother-in-law would probably be stepping right into his shoes for the living dwelling. So there's quite a bit of time that we anticipate using it for family purposes, my family members in particular. I reviewed some letters of concern that were submitted by a few of my neighbors, and it's my understanding that all of those letters were written by sisters. There may be one that I'm not familiar with, but I believe they're all sisters. So it looks like it's a whole neighborhood, but I think it's a family. In all respect, I think it's a family, the people that wrote the letters of concern. I've also submitted 2 letters of approval from my immediate neighbors. And they don't disapprove with my application. I've went through the plans with them and what I intend to do, whatnot. The letters that you have opposing, in due respect, appear to be just opinions. And they didn't really read what I had sent them in the letters, the mailings, as far as the calculations, everything. Being that, I'll give you the facts. The exhibit in my application will show that I have an unusually sized lot. It's not a corner lot. It's not even considered a corner, but it is visually. And the east side of my house, which is a side of my house, is considered by the county the front of my house. And the long exterior front of my house is considered by the county to be the side of my house. So I have a 20-foot setback on a little over a third of an acre on what I'm considering the front of my house. And I have a 20-foot setback on the side of my house that's considered the front of my house by the county. So I'm asking for a reduction of that setback, 20-foot setback, on what the county's calling my front, which happens to be in practicality my side, on the east side, to, I'm not asking for down to 7.5 foot. I think we're only asking for about, what is it, Colin?
11.9.
Yeah, it's,
You asking for an 8.3 variance.
yeah, yes,
I
off the
believe
setback.
that you have the color code, this purple, is that correct?
Yes,
That's
yes,
what you asking for?
yes, yes.
So you asking for a 8.3 on one corner, and then you asking roughly,
That's the most, because of
Yeah.
the op nature, I think it's
Right.
about 2 point something up in the front corner, but it turns into 8.3 at its widest length. So
Now
we're not bringing it to 7.5 feet.
this is the addition that you're building?
The
What are you
purple?
building?
To the left of that purple, that square, it's a 12 by 12,
That's all you building?
That's
what-
it.
That's it?
12 by 12. And the last page should show the actual floor plans.
Well, what we're gonna do, if it's okay with you,
Yes,
instead of giving you a 8.3 all the way down, you'd be comfortable with asking for a variance that is 8.3 on the south side, but it will be, this diagram will be recorded, it'd be this footprint?
it would be that footprint.
Are you
yes.
comfortable with that? The board understand?
No, sir.
He's just asking for the purple on this footprint, on this plan. That's all he's asking for. He's not gonna ask for 8.3 all the way
I'm
down.
asking for the
because
full,
road-
I see.
from 20 down to 7.5.
At some point, I'm here as a neighbor, so.
Well, sir, if you wait your turn, we would definitely give you that opportunity. We're trying to get the information here so we know exactly what he's asking for, and we do appreciate you being here. Go ahead,
As do I.
go ahead.
Okay. So in any event, we're not asking for a full all the way down reduction from 20 to 7.5. The purple mark is denoted in that schematic there is what we're looking for. And there's actual,
Right.
footage there, okay? The calculations are set forth in the site plan. We have calculations for vegetative coverage. We have calculations for the impervious coverage. And I believe that the code states that, well, the existing buildings right now, the existing residence takes up 39% of the total acre, lot size. And in the Dune Lake tributary area, the existing property takes up 27% of that Dune Lake area. With the addition, we add 12% and 25% respectively, and both totals fall under the 53% limitation that this board is limited to under the code. And I think the calculations in the tabulation, it's 52 point something percent. So we do fall under both the impervious and the vegetation limitations as far as build out. We've given careful consideration in the plans. We've bounced this all over the place. And we want to ensure, as the code emphasizes, that the design of the additional is consistent with the elevation, the exterior aesthetics of our house. We thought about building a garage and going up, with the coach house up above. Just didn't look good. If you look at the site plan there, you'll see that that addition to the left of that big picture up front, it's going to make it look exactly like the house. It's not going to look like an addition. It's not going to look like a coach house. It's going to be a breezeway between doors connecting my house and the accessory dwelling. There was some concern about adverse effect on traffic. Very interesting. I'm glad that I read that because I educated myself a little bit. I don't know if you have an aerial view. You do have pictures. You should have pictures. The area that we want to add on to is very, I would say, moderately to heavily vegetated with natural vegetation and tree line. So your sight distance between that corner is very limited to begin with. The way that we designed before you, we thought it was better to put the accessory addition in the area that we're putting, where we needed to get a variance for the setback, because we would not be disturbing any of the vegetation around there. We want it that way, so we went the extra length to build back. I believe we could move it forward if the city or county is taking the position that my setback is 7.5 feet to the left, or in my front yard, which is they're considering my side, I could build out, tear down trees. I'm not saying I want to do that. We don't want to do that. I could do that. That wasn't the route that we wanted to take. We wanted to keep it back, make it look part of the home. You wouldn't even know that it was an add-on to the home. So we did that. Sunrise Circle is not a dead-end, it's a dead-end street. It's not a thoroughfare. When you enter in off of 38, it says dead-end street. In fact, it's not even considered a corner lot that I'm on, according to my pre-meetings with some of the gentlemen here at the county. It's considered a straight street. Of course, we know it's not. It's got a curve to it. But it's a dead-end street. There's no through traffic. There's no volume of traffic. I have a study. I work there during the day, unless I have to be in the office. I sit there all day. There's no traffic on that street. Yes, Federal Express come through, and yes, UPS come through periodically, once a couple times a week. I wish I could have pulled my phone out, not that I would have shown you a video. They crawl around the corner. They crawl around the corner. As I said, it's heavily vegetated to begin with. So we don't have a high traffic pattern in that area. So it's not an intersection either. Not an intersection. The traffic that we've been observing, amazes me, is well below the posted 35 miles an hour. I think it's in there, well below it. I live there and I crawl through there. I never fly through that area anyways. I took the extra step of calling the sheriff's department yesterday. And I spoke to them. I'll be glad to share the phone number with you, but they actually have computerized history of any traffic accidents in that area. Their computerized database, without having to go in and pay for a longer period of time, shows that all the way back to January of 2010, 0 incidences of traffic accidents on that street. They did have one minor where somebody went in errantly on 39 Sunrise Circle, right off of 38, realized they were in the wrong area, kind of backed up to do a U-turn and clipped the person's mailbox. They reported it. It was a traffic incident. There's no traffic that goes through there. It's all localized traffic and gas. So,
Question.
yes.
Is there a stop sign or anything?
Nope.
The road just curves real hard.
It's curves. No stop sign. Is there another question?
I got a quick one here. I think one of the folks that's in opposition has said that you've extended this building before.
No, I just bought the house.
I think that's what they're saying.
No, March of last year, we bought the home, and we checked all the permits and everything were properly pulled and closed, and it's new construction. And they left that whole corner empty. I know why, because of all the vegetation. It's beautiful. Where we're building, we may have to cut a tree down, but we're leaving, we want to keep the natural vegetation heavy in front of the house.
The other concern they're raising is the parking.
Right.
It-
Okay. I did see that. Let me see. We did a parking study after having seen the concern, and the proposed parking that we have there on the site plan accommodates 4 cars. Parking is an issue, but
That's
it's an
your
issue.
existing parking?
Oh, no. Yeah, the existing parking. No, what we propose.
Oh,
So I have a,
okay.
can you pass this on? Is that the one?
he's adding 500 feet to the house. Why is that affecting the parking?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the objection. this neighbor's
you know, you
made.
gotta
Well,
use comments, just hang on. a
In
minute.
all due respect, I think it's opinion, and I'm not belittling anybody. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. But a lot of study was done in the code to see what we could and couldn't do. A lot of detail was in that. So we took my architect, went on to the national database for cars, and that's the scale.
Well,
Seven-
not to interrupt you, but I agree with Chairman Johnson. I don't know how parking becomes an issue with this addition. I just
Okay,
don't.
well, I don't know that my plans are there, but where we have a long driveway going up to my side of that, what I consider the side. I don't mean to confuse the board, but to me, it's the side of my house, okay? It's long and narrow. It's actually closer to the corner that people are concerned about. When you take that and replace it with the square structure that I'm proposing to build, we're moving the parking even further away from it. We're providing for 4 cars instead of 2 cars.
Okay, you got your parking. Go ahead and let's try to
Okay.
get
Gotcha.
on with this.
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear what you've done. You've done your homework. It's pretty clear what you're asking for. Do you want to take and give a summation real quick? We'll give you a chance to come back after we listen to the people in the audience.
Okay, the house is 27 feet away from the corner. Oh, okay. All right. Thank
He
you.
just won't stop, will he?
Lawyers are sometimes the worst enemies.
Are you a lawyer?
Uh-oh, I should have admitted that, but yes.
Oh, my Lord, have mercy.
Motion to dismiss.
Sorry about that, thank you. Damn. And my wife told me not to say that, but thank you.
She's a wise lady. Yes, sir. State your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Brant Enos. I live on the block. I'm at 105 Sunrise Circle. And so you guys understand the street, there's an inner island, and that's where his property is. The woman who developed it and built the home, and I understand he's got his footprint, but she built the biggest house by far on the inner island of our block. She also had ample room on her property to put at least 12 by 12 potting shed, greenhouse, some kind of structure to the west end of the property, which wouldn't have cut down trees, cannibalized what little driveway and parking area there is, and was, by my estimation, not a problem if you would use the existing footprint. But now to jump out onto the corner, cut the trees down, and the cars are already overflowing. I mean, the only time people park on the shoulder is when we have company over, and that's more than one friend. Everybody else is in the driveways. So I understand hardship, and I'm all for it, but I think there's plenty of room on the west side where there was a huge greenhouse. And I also understand that this drawing doesn't even show the swimming pool and all the other room that's there. So if you're counting total footprint, just make sure you've got the full picture in front of you. You've got a very, ample home, swimming pool, and to the west side, it was an enormous, at least 12 by 12 greenhouse at some point.
So you know what you've seen this.
I can't say that I have.
Well, why don't we pass this over to you so you can see it?
Need a napkin?
No, it's fine. Thank you.
And that's the entire, it's the entire, so I guess where I'm pointing is this area.
Right.
It's a huge structure.
You-
And this, if that's really the sweep of it, I'd be amazed. If it's a much tighter space than that. But
It's kind of unique that he has a front on 2 sides.
yeah.
You would take that in.
Yeah, and
you
I'm
would
with you,
agree
I'm with
that.
you. I'm with the exposure of it. I mean, it looks like the front is the side, but the front where all the cars are, and the cars have nowhere to go, now is going to be a building. So I don't know where the cars are going. I don't see a driveway, I don't see anything.
But, wait a minute,
Nobody's in
now-
the street.
now, hang on a minute. Help me understand your concerns with the driveway. He has driveway now, right?
does on that end, towards the front.
He has a driveway on,
So this is cannibalizing a little shaded parking area right now. So that's the shaded parking area where the structure is. It's a shaded parking area, and they, a lot of times are just parked on the shoulder and don't use the shaded parking area. And the cars are all here. The neighbors have a very ample home with a huge driveway. Everybody else has their own driveways. So all the cars are kind of on the shoulder, and this is the shaded driveway where this structure is.
shaded driveway.
Yeah, it's a canopy and there's a little cut through. The woman who built the home designed it with the lot in mind. And she was forced out because of the looming edifice they allowed to build right up on her pool, which is now the biggest house on the block. So
But he
this
has
is the
that-
parking area.
Don't he have a garage? Does he have a garage?
No.
No, this is the shaded parking area. That's it. It's a garage. It's shaded parking. Access.
If he were to build like he was indicating, he would have more room to park
No,
off the
no room
street.
to park. That's the parking lot. That's
Well,
his
well,
park- that's
he
his
would have
driveway.
4 cars that he could park on his lot instead of 2 right now.
That's what he's gonna build.
That's where the structure is, right.
Mr. Chairman,
Going right into the building.
If I could interject, this Exhibit A is the first time I've seen this. This comes through for a building permit, it will not be approved because of where the parking is shown. Now, I think they may be able to move the parking around, but those 2 cars in the back can't be parked in the public right of way. Land Development Code requires all parking to be on lot.
You're looking at that one, Mac?
Right.
Yes. It's applicant Exhibit A.
That was the,
Yeah, I just,
that was the document.
No, that's
this
a
was,
different one.
this was generated in result of just seeing the letters of concern yesterday that I got. And I apologize you didn't get it ahead of time, or I would have presented it earlier. I'm not trying to surprise anybody, we just got the letters yesterday.
That's not it. That's not what Mac is showing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is just scratch off land, or is that supposed to denote, I mean, that's a swimming pool.
Mike, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Karen went ahead and marked it as exhibit, petitioner's exhibit A or applicant's exhibit A when he handed it out.
We're gonna do this whole package?
Whenever staff was ready, but this
Okay.
was what the petitioner or applicant provided, so we went ahead and marked it as exhibit
Okay.
A.
So you're against the variance?
I am in that design, absolutely. I mean, there's nowhere for them to park at this point. They've got 3 or 4, I mean, the gentleman's daughter lives with them, she's got a car, the wife, the husband. And now, unfortunately, his poor father, and then his mother, that's 5 vehicles. And they've already cannibalized the parking. If you put a structure, and there's plenty of room, I'm telling you, there was a 12 by 12, if not bigger, greenhouse on that property on the west end. On the property. Right next to the neighbors who have no problem with it.
What is your name?
Brandt, B-R-A-N-D-T, last name E-N-O-S. I live at 105 Sunrise Circle.
My memory's not good, but I appreciate that.
Okay, just so you know.
We appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience would like to speak, either for or against?
Me first. Chairman Johnson, board members, my name is Tim Norris. I live at 206 Crescent Road. And I'm here for the applicant. I actually am the realtor that sold him the house. So with all the activities going on in this county, the additions of these carriage houses or additions, you're seeing them all over. And whether it looks good, this applicant has considered everything within the code that he possibly can, or they can. And the other side of it is that the values in the community, that was one of the concerns I understand was, it was going to affect the community. Well, it's just very small a neighborhood, and it's not the biggest house. I think there's another one bigger than that one in the neighborhood on the other side. So values of the properties with an addition like this obviously will go up. And it is aesthetically pleasing. It's very nice, as far as the real estate side goes.
it'd be an easy sale. So, but appreciate your approval.
Do you have any comment on the parking, Tim? That seems to be a very valid concern.
Yeah, there's plenty of area for parking, and it's only, matter of fact, there's not 5 people going to be parking cars there. His dad probably won't even have a car. He barely can drive now. So the 3 cars that are there now are probably going to be the 3 cars that are going to be there. So that's just it.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Combrink. I'm a personal friend of the Dithart family.
Your name is what?
Kyle Combrink. Last name spelled Kombrinck. To address the parking concerns, I understand that as the exhibit is shown with the 4 spaces and 2 in the public right of way, that wouldn't fly. However, we did look at that, and if a parking space is considered 8 feet by 20 feet long, we can definitely fit 3 parking spaces in there, which would meet the zoning requirement intent. I believe the intent is for a single-family dwelling unit, up to 3 bedrooms, you need 2 parking spaces, and then 1 additional for each additional bedroom. So that would bring us up to 3 required, and we would be able to have 3 parking spaces on there at 8 by 20.
We're gonna let you deal with the county on the parking. You're gonna have to deal with that. That's not the issue before us tonight.
Yep.
The issue before us tonight is the
Right.
12 by 12 structure. Is that correct? And you are the architect, is that right?
Correct. The 24 by 24 edition, yes, sir.
24 by 24. Can you put it on the west side of the house?
We actually looked at that. Mr. Dithart and I, we've been looking through probably a dozen different iterations of this, looking at both the west side and the east side. Unfortunately, with the way the lot is cornered and the proportions needed to get something like that and still create a separation of the house and decent circulation within the dwelling unit itself. For instance, if we were to put it on the west side of the house, to get from the accessory dwelling unit to the main house, you would actually have to cross through the master bedroom if you were to cross through and if we were to move the breezeway to the west side. Circulation wise, we didn't feel that was the right answer to the problem. Whereas putting it on the east side allowed that and much greater flexibility with the lot and the proportions of the dwelling unit itself.
It looks like you would still need a variance even if you tried to put it where the greenhouse was.
Correct. Yeah, I believe it's a 7.5 foot setback on those sides. Yes.
On one side and then
Yeah.
15 on the other side.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Come on up and state your name for the record.
My name is Fred Tricker, Tricker, and I just had a quick question. Did I understand that the impervious surface ratio is 39% after the addition of the extra building? Is that what I heard? Ask the question again. The impervious surface ratio? And I know that's not part of this review, but if we don't meet the impervious surface ratio, maybe you don't want to get the variance.
We appreciate you coming, give you the opportunity to ask your concern, as long as don't get too out of hand.
I'm sure they got a good answer. I just
Well,
want
let
to
them
satisfy
address
myself.
it. Answer the man's question.
I'm sorry, you're asking if the impervious surface ratio is 39%?
I thought that's what I heard.
I think that was prior to the actual, when you calculate the total lot area, the total impervious building area, it is 37.3%.
Okay, does that include the driveways and the pool?
Correct, it does.
Okay, all right.
Actually,
So,
if I'm correct, the pavers are not counted any longer.
I think they are counted for 50%, I believe.
Pardon?
50%, I think. Am I right, Mac?
I would have to double check that.
I do believe I spoke with Jason Catalano who is our floodplain manager, and that only in the coastal dune lake protection zone are pavers considered impervious for the purpose of driveways.
But only for 50%.
We're in the coastal dune lake protection zone.
No, okay.
Yeah,
They're-
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they're considered pervious. Excuse me.
But it's only 50% of the area is considered impervious, not the entire area, I think, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Anyway,
did they answer your question? Or
well, not really. There's a little confusion over whether the brick pavers on the driveways are considered impervious or pervious or something in between. My understanding is you get 50% credit. It's considered to be 50% impervious. So if they're already at 37, that might put them over the 40% limit. So
Kyle, you want to address that?
Sure. I mean, I don't know the specific section of code. In our earlier discussions, and I believe it was, I can't remember who it was with the county, we're informed that it was only the roof area of the lot that would count towards the impervious, and that pavers were going to be counted as impervious or as pervious.
well, the pool's also impervious, right?
It's out of the coastal area.
The whole lot. Well, yeah, no. Yeah, but the whole lot is considered to be part of the coastal dune lake protection zone, even if only part of it's in it. So anyway, I'll leave it with y'all.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Anyone else? Please come.
I won't be there again. I know y'all
It's still early.
No.
Most everyone's done and had their supper.
I am Joe Henderson, and I own the lot next to what you heard earlier tonight. And there is that old road part in my lot too. So I will make all the necessary arrangements to appear before you next time to say I want an abandonment. I mean, just quit. I don't want to build anything, I just want it to be mine.
Well, we need to stick with this issue here before us. You can come back next time and discuss that.
Okay, I'll do that, and thank you all for being up there. God, you have to do this how often?
Once a month.
Once a month. Well, I guess I'll see you in May, June sometime. But
May.
anyway, thank you so much for what you do. Not many people are really happy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? We're gonna listen to the county staff. Miss Vivian.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by asking for the staff report be entered into the record, please.
What is that gonna be, Exhibit D?
It'll just be staff exhibit
A?
A.
So, Andrew?
Well, the question is, basically, is the county setback is question number one, and has a hardship been shown that that would be worthy of you granting a variance for that, the Standard County setback. The second part is the coastal dune lake, and the fact that there are restrictions that limit the amount of clearing and amount of that you can cover the lot. The county did adopt a method for the zoning board to give some hardship relief on that effort to increase up to impervious area to no more than 53% of the portion of the parcel within the 300-foot coastal dune lake protection zone. So there is a method for you to give them some relief from that the stricter 40%. It is the norm for Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone. So the staff does not have any issues with the granting of either variance. I think basically what you would be granting on the second part, the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone, is up to the amount allowed by the code. So whatever Mr. Dithart's design ends up being for the drive, the county would have to have it fall within those parameters, and in order to be approved. So
He's asking for 8.3 feet variance request on the south side. Should he ask for anything else? I mean, you're saying that, you know, do we need to consider anything else?
no, I mean you've got just the standard county setbacks that he's asking for a variance from, and then the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone, that would be at no more than 53%. You couldn't grant any more than that anyhow.
But do we need to make that part of our language?
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
So he's asking for two variances. He's asking for a front setback, which is going to be 8.3 feet on the south side, but it'd be the footprint that he presented us. And then then there's going to be a variance request for up to 53% impervious area. Is that right?
Yes, sir. If you,
Yes, basically as it's written.
Report as well, allow vegetative clearing and impervious area to no more than 53% of the portion.
Okay. I did not see that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You get one more time.
Do you have any question?
I think the 53% applies to clearing, not the impervious surface ratio. I could be wrong, but if you would just take a quick look at the language.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm retired.
Yeah, but that's not a good answer.
What did you do for a living?
What do you do now for a living?
Well, I spent a lot of time working with the South Walton Community Council, and we deal with a lot of development issues, and
Okay.
so we're getting more and more active all the time. So.
Good deal.
And I'm also building a house that's in the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone.
You gonna need a variance?
Not yet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The section of the code that Mr. Tricker's referring to is subsection H12 in the Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone, Chapter 4. And it reads, hardship relief from the application of a numeric percentage restrictions in the preceding paragraphs may be sought by a property owner through application to the Zoning Board of Adjustment pursuant to the variance criteria found in section 8.02.02. In no event shall the Zoning Board of Adjustment increase the allowable vegetative clearing and impervious area to more than 53% of the portion of the parcel that is within the 300-foot Coastal Dune Lake Protection Zone.
You good with that now, sir?
That is
Yes,
on
sir.
the second page of your staff report.
Thank you, Vivian. Bill Hardy, you want to come up and do your final?
Well, my final would be, unless you have any questions for me, I really, really appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. As I said, we're excited to be here. I know there have been some concerns. I have no intentions of making enemies of my neighbors. My daughter's not going to be with me forever. She's got a new nursing job up here. My father will. He doesn't drive. I don't know where the pool comes into the issue and the calculations, because it's all part of that paver shaded area on my site plan, and the greenhouse we had removed. There's
The
no
main
sh-
thing you're asking for is a hardship because your daddy lives in South Florida and he's need medical attention. He's not ready to go to a nursing home. You don't want to go to a nursing home.
And he
wants
doesn't want to live with me. He
And he wants his
refuses.
independence, and that's the hardship.
And I think that the code codifies public policy to provide accessory dwelling units for family members. I think this is the board's opportunity to fulfill that objective. Thank you very much. I really
Very good.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close it, public discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion to approve it with the two requests.
I'll make that motion for discussion.
Second.
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 We got a motion, we have a second. We have two variance requests. We have, first request is to increase the impervious surface to 53%, and the other request would be a 8.3 variance on the south side, which would narrow on the north side, but it would be the footprint of the site plan that he presented. Discussion.
Well, I just want to make sure I understood. You said that the parking issue is separate. That's one he'll have to address.
Mr.
when he-
Carpenter will make sure that the parking is adequate before the permit is approved.
Okay.
It is not an issue before us.
I do have one question. Unless I missed something in the packet, it's my understanding that a portion of this lot lies within the 300-foot dune lake protection zone?
Yes, sir.
It's closed the public. You should have asked before. Don't mean to be short, but
Pardon me. Okay.
we're not gonna open it back up.
Excuse me.
Ask
But
ask
yes,
Mr.
the
Chairman
answer
that
to
question.
is yes.
Then,
Vivian touched on that several times when she's trying to explain what we can do with the 53%.
well, that it indicates to me that it's on the outskirts of the 300-foot limits. I don't think that since it is not an intersection, does not have a stop sign. I think the vegetation also does not, at present, this would not cause for a greater traffic problem. I do believe there is a hardship with the double frontage, so.
I agree. Charlie?
I agree with what he said. As far as the double frontage, he's clearly got a ailing father. He's,
If you agree, you agree.
I agree.
I'm good.
Have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Burgess, how do you vote?
I vote in favor. Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
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 Fletcher? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
You received your variance request. You did a good presentation. You almost oversold it, but being a lawyer, we understand. We have the same
Can't help
problem, Mr.
himself.
Dykes. Right, Mr. Dykes?
That's what I hear.
Thank you very much. Are there any further business that we need to discuss? You don't want us to do any, are there any, let's do this, Mr. Fletcher, are there any corrections to the minutes?
I like it.
No corrections, the minutes is approved. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, aye?
Did we have minutes to approve?
Do what?
Did we have minutes to approve?
You don't want me to approve the minutes?
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to approve
No,
the
no,
minutes
no.
or not approve the minutes?
No, I don't. I think you did it exactly right.
Now you're gonna change it again, aren't you?
Ask Mr. Morris, he was at the same meeting when they told us that.
I totally disagree with it.
Well, I'll bring it written.